99% of Toyota drivers are silently destroying their transmissions right now, and they do not even know it. Not because they are careless, but because they are following advice that sounds right and that damages the transmission from the inside out. These are not minor mistakes. They are behaviors that cost Toyota owners thousands in transmission rebuilds that could have been prevented. Let's start with the biggest transmission killer that almost everyone gets wrong. Mistake number 1, neglecting transmission fluid health. Most Toyota drivers believe transmission fluid is lifetime or never needs attention. That belief destroys more transmissions than anything else. Toyota automatic transmissions, whether it is the U760E in the RAV4, the U880E in the Highlander, or the K120 CVT in the Corolla, all rely on clean fluid to survive. Transmission fluid does 4 critical jobs simultaneously. It lubricates metal gears and clutch packs. It transfers hydraulic pressure so the transmission shifts properly. It cools internal components under heavy load, and it cleans away metal particles from normal wear. When fluid breaks down, all 4 functions collapse at once. Dark brown or black fluid means the additives are gone and metal-on-metal contact has already begun. Toyota transmission rebuilds start at $3,000 to $5,000, and most trace back to fluid that was ignored for 100,000 miles or more. The correct approach is simple. Check transmission fluid color and smell every 30,000 miles. If it is dark, burnt smelling, or gritty, change it immediately. Waiting for a dashboard warning means the damage is already done. Toyota designed these transmissions to last 200,000 miles or more, but only if the fluid stays clean. Mistake number 2, shifting into drive or reverse while the car is still rolling. This mistake happens every single day in parking lots and driveways across America. Drivers sometimes roll backward slightly, then shove the shifter into drive before the car fully stops, or they roll forward and shift into reverse while the wheels are still turning. That split-second decision creates violent internal shock loads that damage clutch packs, planetary gears, and valve bodies. Inside a Toyota automatic transmission, shifting gears requires precise hydraulic pressure to engage and disengage clutch plates smoothly. When the transmission is forced to shift while the wheels are turning in the opposite direction, those clutch plates slam together instead of meshing gradually. Over time, that causes clutch material to glaze, overheat, and eventually fail. Toyota service data shows transmissions with repeated harsh shifts often have this pattern on teardown inspections. The fix is simple, but it requires discipline. Always come to a complete stop, feel the car settle, then shift. That 2-second pause protects the entire transmission system and can add years to its life. Mistake number 3, accelerating hard from a cold start. Cold transmission fluid behaves completely differently than warm fluid. When a Toyota sits overnight, transmission fluid thickens and does not flow smoothly through narrow passages and valve bodies. The hydraulic system inside the transmission relies on fluid pressure to activate clutches and control shift timing. Cold, thick fluid cannot build that pressure quickly. Drivers who accelerate hard during the first few minutes force the transmission to shift under load before it is ready. This creates slipping, delayed engagement, and clutch wear that accumulates silently. Toyota engineers design warm-up logic into the transmission control module, the TCM, specifically to protect against this. The TCM delays certain shift points and limits torque converter lockup until the fluid reaches operating temperature, usually around 160 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Ignoring this logic by driving aggressively when cold overrides the protection Toyota built in. A calm, steady first 5 minutes allows the fluid to warm, expand, and flow properly. Transmission shops consistently report that vehicles driven gently when cold show significantly less clutch and valve body wear than those driven hard immediately after startup. Mistake number 4. Skipping the transmission filter. Most Toyota drivers focus only on the fluid during a transmission service and completely forget about the filter. That's a critical mistake. The transmission filter sits inside the pan and catches metal shavings, clutch material, and dirt before they circulate back through the system. Over time, the filter clogs with debris. A clogged filter restricts fluid flow, which drops hydraulic pressure and starves critical components. Low pressure causes delayed shifts, slipping, and overheating. On Toyota transmissions in the Camry, Tacoma, and Sienna, the filter is not external. It requires dropping the pan to access. Many quick lube shops skip this step because it takes more time and increases labor cost. They drain and fill the fluid through the dipstick tube or the drain plug and call it done. That leaves the old filter in place, full of contamination. Fresh fluid flowing through a clogged filter is like drinking clean water through a dirty straw. Within 10,000 to 20,000 miles, the new fluid is already contaminated again. Toyota service manuals clearly state that the filter should be replaced during every major fluid service. Skipping it cuts the effectiveness of the service in half and shortens transmission life significantly. If you made it this far, then consider liking this video, giving it a thumbs up, and subscribing to my channel. This helps me bring you more honest car advice. Mistake number 5. Using the wrong transmission fluid. Not all transmission fluid is the same, even if the bottle says it is universal or works in all vehicles. Toyota transmissions are engineered around specific fluid formulations, and using the wrong type causes immediate and long-term damage. Toyota automatic transmissions require ATFWS, which is the world standard fluid. This fluid has a unique friction modifier package designed to work with Toyota's clutch materials and valve body tolerances. Using generic Dexron or Mercon fluid might make the transmission shift initially, but the friction characteristics are wrong. Shifts become harsh, clutches slip under load, and the torque converter may shudder during lockup. Worse, the wrong fluid can cause the transmission control module to misread pressure signals, leading to incorrect shift timing and further internal wear. Toyota CVT transmissions in models such as the Corolla and CHR require CVT fluid FE, which is completely different from traditional ATF. CVT transmissions rely on a steel belt running between pulleys, and the fluid must have precise friction properties to prevent slipping. Using ATF in a CVT causes the belt to slip, overheat, and fail within months. Always verify the fluid type in your owner's manual or on the transmission dipstick. The $20 difference in fluid cost is nothing compared to a $4,000 transmission replacement. Mistake number 6. Towing without a transmission cooler. Towing puts enormous stress on any transmission, and Toyota automatics are no exception. When a vehicle tows a trailer, the transmission works harder to maintain speed, shifts more frequently, and generates significantly more heat. Heat is the #1 killer of automatic transmissions. For every 20 degrees above normal operating temperature, transmission fluid life is cut in half. That means fluid that would last 60,000 miles at 180 degrees might only last 15,000 miles at 240 degrees. Most Toyota trucks and SUVs come with a factory transmission cooler, but it is often undersized for heavy or frequent towing. Adding an aftermarket auxiliary transmission cooler dramatically improves fluid temperatures and extends transmission life. The cooler mounts in front of the radiator and uses airflow to drop fluid temperature by 30 to 50 degrees under load. Installation is straightforward and costs between $150 and $300. For owners who tow regularly, this upgrade pays for itself by preventing a single transmission rebuild. Toyota Tacoma and Tundra owners who tow without supplemental cooling consistently report transmission failures between 100,000 and 150,000 miles. Those who add coolers often exceed 250,000 miles on the original transmission. Mistake number 7. Ignoring shift quality changes. Transmissions don't fail suddenly. They give warnings weeks or even months before total failure. Most drivers ignore these signals because they assume minor issues will fix themselves. They will not. A slight delay when shifting from park to drive, a momentary flare between gears, or a soft bump during downshifts are all early signs of internal wear. These symptoms indicate that clutch packs are starting to slip, valve body solenoids are sticking, or hydraulic pressure is dropping. Catching these problems early allows for targeted repairs like solenoid replacement, valve body cleaning, or a simple fluid flush. Ignoring them allows the damage to spread. A $400 solenoid repair can turn into a $3,500 rebuild because metal debris from the failed solenoid contaminates the entire system. Toyota transmissions are remarkably durable, but they communicate their condition through shift feel. Drivers who pay attention and act early save thousands. Those who ignore the signs pay for full rebuilds. Mistake number 8. Performing transmission flushes incorrectly. Transmission flushes are controversial, and for good reason. When done correctly, they remove old fluid and contaminants effectively. When done incorrectly, they can destroy transmissions in days. The problem is pressure. High-pressure flush machines force new fluid through the transmission at rates far higher than the pump was designed to handle. That pressure dislodges large chunks of clutch material, sludge, and metal particles that were sitting harmlessly in the pan. Those chunks get pushed into narrow valve body passages, solenoids, and the filter, causing blockages. Within a few hundred miles, the transmission starts slipping, shifting erratically, or refusing to engage gears. Toyota service departments generally recommend drain and fill services instead of full flushes, especially on high-mileage vehicles. A drain and fill removes about 40% of the old fluid per service, which is enough to refresh the system without creating shock. Repeating the service 2 or 3 times over 10,000 miles achieves the same result as a flush, but without the risk. If a flush is performed, it should only be done on transmissions with a clean service history and with fewer than 100,000 miles. Mistake number 9. Parking on steep inclines without the parking brake. This habit seems harmless but places constant stress on the transmission parking pal, a small metal tooth that locks the transmission when the shifter is in park. On steep hills, the entire weight of the vehicle rests on that pawl. Over time, repeated stress can bend, crack, or break it. When the pal fails, the transmission can no longer hold the vehicle in park. The car rolls freely, creating a serious safety hazard. Toyota engineers designed the parking brake to hold the vehicle, not the transmission. The correct sequence is simple. Stop the car, engage the parking brake firmly, then shift into park. This transfers the load to the brake system and removes stress from the transmission. When leaving, shift into drive or reverse first, then release the parking brake. This prevents the pal from binding under load. Drivers who follow this routine report parking pals lasting the life of the vehicle. Those who skip it often face expensive transmission removal and internal repair. Mistake number 10, neglecting the torque converter. The torque converter is the fluid coupling between the engine and transmission, and it is one of the most misunderstood components in the drivetrain. It allows the engine to run while the car is stopped, and it multiplies torque during acceleration. Inside the converter, a clutch can lock the engine and transmission together at highway speeds to improve fuel economy. When that lockup clutch wears out, it causes shuddering, vibration, and slipping. Contaminated transmission fluid accelerates converter wear because metal particles act like sandpaper on the clutch surface. Many transmission rebuilds fail early because the converter was not replaced or flushed during the repair. Old fluid and debris trapped inside the converter recontaminate the fresh fluid immediately. Toyota technicians recommend replacing the torque converter anytime the transmission is opened or rebuilt. The part costs $200 to $400, and it prevents comebacks and ensures the rebuild lasts. Drivers who experience vibration between 40 and 50 miles per hour should have the torque converter inspected immediately. That symptom almost always points to internal clutch wear. Mistake number 11, driving in sport mode constantly. Toyota Sport Mode changes shift points to keep the engine in higher RPM ranges for better throttle response. It feels engaging and fun, but using it constantly increases transmission wear. Sport Mode holds gears longer, which means more heat, more clutch engagement cycles, and higher stress on internal components. For spirited driving or highway merging, Sport Mode is excellent. For daily commuting, school runs, or city traffic, it is unnecessary and harmful. The transmission control module is programmed to balance performance, efficiency, and durability in normal mode. Overriding that logic every day shortens transmission life. Toyota Sport Mode is designed for occasional use, not default driving. Switching back to normal mode for routine driving protects the transmission while keeping Sport Mode available when it is actually needed. Mistake number 12, ignoring software updates. Modern Toyota transmissions are controlled by complex software inside the transmission control module. That software manages shift timing, hydraulic pressure, torque converter lockup, and adaptive learning. Toyota occasionally releases updates to address shift quality issues, improve fuel economy, or fix bugs. Many drivers never visit the dealership for these updates because they do not realize they exist. Outdated transmission software can cause harsh shifts, poor fuel economy, and premature outdated wear. The updates are usually free and take less than an hour to install. Checking with a Toyota service department every 30,000 miles ensures the transmission is running the latest calibration. This simple step prevents problems that owners often blame on mechanical failure when the real issue is outdated code. In short, protecting a Toyota transmission comes down to three things: clean fluid, correct operation, and early attention to warning signs. When those three stay consistent, transmissions shift smoothly, run cool, and last 200,000 miles or more. Ignoring them leads to slipping, overheating, and eventual failure. The mistakes you have seen here do not destroy transmissions overnight. They create slow, hidden damage that compounds over years until the transmission can no longer function. Following these steps does the opposite. It prevents wear before it starts, and it turns your Toyota transmission into one of the most reliable parts of the vehicle. If you're enjoying this video, consider watching the next one where I'm sharing the exact maintenance schedule that makes Toyota engines last 300,000 miles or more.